Free Trade Area Agreement. The African Continental Free Trade Area is one of the 13 flagship projects of Agenda 2063, the Africa We Want of the African Union. The Pan-African Parliament is currently in session and its headquarters in Midrand, South Africa. We're now joined on the line by a Deputy Chair for Pan-African Parliament Committee on Trade, Mr. McHenry Venaani. Say good evening and welcome to the Daily Roundup.
Thank you very much. I'm obliged to be with you. Good evening, Namibians.
Mr. Venaani, you formed part of the panelists this morning and you spoke on your interventions regarding the African Free Trade Area Agreement. Can you highlight some of these actions that should be taken in order to realize trading amongst African nations?
Well, I think there are a number of economic complex matters such as tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers, access to countries, infrastructural improvement that needs to be done, identification of products and so forth. But the biggest challenge is the political dialogue that needs to be settled, that Africans themselves fundamentally must decide and agree on devolving a number of powers to the African Union for it to become an effective body that we do not only create a large concocracy that do not really act in unison and powers are left to the capitals of the continent. If you are dealing with the European Union, you are dealing with one commissioner on fisheries, you are dealing with one person representing 450 million people. When you are dealing with many African countries, every country has its own power and has not devolved too much power to the African Union, which is a malleable protocol. So many countries, including ours, have not really acceded, and we have not debated whether we should accede to the Union and devolve a number of powers based on the other. That's one concern. Two, fundamentally, the information of Continental Free Trade Area is only in the purview of those that are leading international trade lawyers, luminaries of the continent that are dealing with this matter. But the general populace, the small and medium enterprises, in Uchiwarongo, in Korekas, in Njambala, in Tseblas, they do not know this mammoth idea of an African Continental Free Trade Area. So it is incumbent upon parliamentarians to cascade the debate from the echelons of power so that the people of Africa who would be prepared to represent can be able to understand and conceptualize the essence of an African free trade area. We envisage to lift our 150 people out of poverty, create jobs for the young people. But how do we do that if we are not empowering the young people on the African continent? I raised a number of issues that many of Africans' procurement are done by big multinationals that are foreign-owned, especially Chinese and other countries. The bridges of the continent, the roads on the continent, all these things are done by foreign companies. Now, how do we empower the SME or the private sector for them to have the necessary capacity to be able to facilitate inter-Africa trade? So these are issues that need to be addressed. We also need to address the lapses of our infrastructure, our ports. Generally, international trade in its nature is 70% conducted on maritime waters. Now, if you do not have efficient ports, functional ports on the continent, how do you deepen African trade? So these are some of the issues that needs to be addressed. But one thing that is very fundamental is that the debate now must move away from the capitals to the peripheries of the African people that we prepare to represent. The business people, private sector, the youth, the women must be engaged to say that what are the products that are on the continent, what are the benefits that are on the continent, what should we do to be able to make sure that we envisage a belligerent approach to attack this intra-Africa trade. Without the people of Africa, and if we allow other multinational companies, big companies, NBL, all these big companies advancing the trade and leaving the people behind in small and medium enterprises, you create what was created by Black economic empowerment in South Africa, where the richest got richer and the rest of the African populace remain poor. So what you need to do is that while you want a stronger, robust private sector at the multinational companies, you also want small and medium enterprises that is engineered, that is propelled, that is assisted, that is aided, that is constituted for it to be able to really accelerate free continental trade on the continent. So those are some of the issues that are raised during the interventions that are made this afternoon.
Thank you so much. You mentioned, of course, the importance of, sensitizing individuals on the opportunities that would exist for Africa with this agreement. What are, the trading opportunities within Africa and the various growth opportunities that this agreement would bring forth if it's fully realized?
Well, there are two things that Africa has great potential in. Africa is a repository of 38% of minerals across the globe. So we have a commodity called minerals. We have undersell it, under-negotiated it for the last 60 years. We have sold it to the highest bidder, and we got peanuts for it. So if we start structurally addressing value addition and create value change in the mining sector, Africa can be able to propel and be able to facilitate bigger trade and earn more foreign valuta and create better paying jobs. Agriculture is one area that we can venture in. Saudi Arabia and these countries are coming to Africa to come in these farms on the African continent for their own produce, for them to address their own hunger. So if we absorb the ecological potential, the agricultural potential, we mechanize it, we create the necessary job, we create food security. These are one area that we can be able to exploit as easy as possible, as easy as nothing. Because now currently Africa is buying sugar from Brazil. We are buying rice from Brazil, Vietnam. These are commodities that we can grow on the benches of the Congo River. These are commodities that we can grow in Zimbabwe. These are commodities that we can grow in all ecological zones that have good rain, that has good land, arable land, and Africa can be able to prosper. So if we take agriculture as a low-hanging fruit, we take mining, value addition, and now the third capacity that we have is the deposits of energy that we have, like oil that we found in Namibia, in Angola, in Nigeria, green hydrogen that is found in Namibia, the carbon potential that is in the Congo Basin that can be able to energize and power 40% of the African energy needs. These are all low-hanging fruits that we can be able to absorb and be able to utilize for the benefit of our people. But most of the time when we structure these deals, it's either one or two people that benefit from it. We sell all the commodities to the outside markets, and those countries become the biggest beneficiaries. Everything that we have in Africa, first and foremost, we must say, what is it that we want to benefit from that resource ourselves? What is our needs, our energy needs? We cover 40% of the African economy, then we sell the rest. So we need to restructure our international trade agreements with multinational companies in such a way that they bring value to the people of Africa and propel our socio-economic trajectory.
In the acceleration towards the realization of this agreement, inclusivity was one of the things that you highlighted. So how can women and the youth, accelerate trading on the continent?
Well, one thing that we need to address that has not been addressed is to create deliberate markets for women businesses, deliberate banking facilities for young people to be able to access loans. Because if a company wants to start and build roads in another country, those people must have access to collateral, to venture capitals rather, that they need to start up with. So these are some of discussions that are around. Exim Bank is working on a number of products, and it's high time that we create a women bank, economic bank that bankable projects of women companies to make sure that we propel and bring women and youth to the forefront.
Just lastly, Mr. Venaani, what do you believe as the Deputy Chair for the Pan-African Committee Trade should be the strategies that need to be implemented to get the ball rolling?
Excuse me, pardon me?
My question was, what do you believe should be the strategies that should be implemented to get the ball rolling?
I think the strategy that needs to be implemented is first and foremost for politicians, parliamentarians, to bring information at the doorsteps of Africans. The populace that we prepare to represent do not know what we are talking about. So it is important for us to take Africa along with what we want to do. That's one strategy. Strategy number two is to renegotiate and be open and candid about the arrangements that we make with foreign companies that are coming and investing in Africa, so that we look at the potential of every business. Every case must be reviewed and see, are we making enough from our uranium or can we make more? Every cent that we can make more is denying an African to go to school, an African to be able to have a better health facility. So we renegotiate every structural deal that we make in this country, in our countries, to make sure that our people benefit. And then we line up
to Europe. There is no value added. It is the same situation for textiles and for timber.
So we must also
it
work
is the
in
same
tandem. Our education strategy must also be poised at making sure that every opportunity that exists on the continent, we must educate people. I am a believer because I want to become a president of Namibia. I'm saying Namibia can be the first African country to produce our first solar plants. Why are we buying solar panels from other countries? Why don't we create a capacity in Namibia to produce our own solar? Our land is in abundance. We have the desert of kilometers. We have the sun that we are imbued with. Why don't we change the country and be able to make sure that we fire our energy with our own solar capacity as a means? And these are things that we must start dreaming of. We must become an Africa that produces. We can't be an Africa that buys solar panels from China, from Turkey, from nearly everywhere from the world, but we can't produce nearly nothing. While other countries on the continent are making their own buses, Uganda is already producing buses in their own country, yet we are struggling with having even solar panels that we have energy, sun energy in abundance, but yet we can't produce
here
and
in this gathering.
Make profit out of it.
Can you hear the
so
interpretation?
These are things that we need to cascade down to say, what is our niche market? What is it that we can do to be able to propel intra-Africa trade? Our own intra-Namibia trade should be so poised. Our capacity at agriculture, our capacity at energy creation should be so well poised, so make sure that we are going to take the bull by its horn. If we are not creating our own internal capacity, we will not be able to compete competitively. Other countries will come and dominate us if we are not preparing ourselves. So we must prepare the country, prepare and rise.
Mr. McHenry Venaani, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Very good. Thank you very much.
We're going to take a brief break and we'll be right back after.